Right, now there are two areas. There are the topmost areas for differences. One is communication, the other one is intimacy. Communication means more for the woman, intimacy means more for the male. Males tend to be very simple and direct. So the intimacy discussion here is going to be low level. Communication with a woman, complicated. So there's going to be a lot of discussion now, inshallah. So bismillah. Deborah Tenen again, communication specialist. The differences in assumption as to what constitutes communication explains why lack of communication is the most common complaint of women about their marriages. 80% of all marriages that end is due to a woman, in the sense that she says the marriage is not working. Almost 100% of the time, the reason for that is lack of communication. Or, to say it differently, lack of romantic intimacy. Or, to say it differently, lack of emotional fulfillment. Or, to say it differently, lack of connection. It all comes down to the same thing. It all means the same thing in the world of a woman. And Allah knows best. Whereas men who are parties to the same marriage do not typically mention communication as a problem. So the wife is saying, Moulana praat nooit nie. Wat? Ons praat baie. Gestaan door sappig eten, toe praat ek met jou. Toe sê ek jou die kos is lekker. That's the type of problem you're sitting with. Communication specialists have made an estimate as to how many words are used by a man during the day as opposed to how many words is used by a woman. Some of the more generous experts, they say a male uses 12,500 words a day, while a woman generally uses 25,000 words a day. Then the suggestion is, and some people say there's a joke, they send it around in an email, but they get the numbers mixed up. The suggestion is that he speaks his 12,500 at work, or 12,499. And then he comes home with one word. While the wife speaks at 12,500, and then she comes home with a 12,500 extra that she wants to share. And Allah knows best. Right. Diane McGuinness of Stanford University conducted a vocalization study of 2.5 to 4-year-old children. So they studied 2.5 to 4-year-old children. Notice what they noticed. With the girls, 100% of the time was spent making audible, recognizable words. Audible. They can hoor, recognizable, they can uitmaak wat sy sê. With the boys, 60% of communication was recognizable words. And 40% was one word, like wow, or noises and sounds like and or sound effects like yeah and zoom. 40% of male communication comes down to that. Obviously, when we grow up and become adults, we add to it. But you see, the point that is stressed there is that communication in the sense of detailed communication, and in the sense of expressing feelings, we men are not into those things, man. You understand? Ek sal Ronald op my airplane en ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Daar is het ek moet sê. Nee, do you want to fight? Let's speak about the fight, man. Can't we pass make war, peace? Nee, dit vir daai nie. Ta-ta-ta-ta. Interesting hadith of the Prophet of Allah. A child comes, an adult male comes, but he is somebody's child in the sense of he's a son. So he asked the Prophet of Allah, who's more entitled to good treatment? Who should I treat well? Man ahakku bi husni sahbati. Man ahakku bi husni sahabati. Who is most entitled to my companionship on a human level? And then the Prophet answered, your mother. Then he asked, right, so who after my mother? Then the Prophet answered, your mother. Then he asked, okay, right, then who after my mother? And the Prophet said, your mother. Then he asked, okay, right, who after my mother? And then he said, your father. So he mentioned thrice your mother, once your father. When it comes to relationship between child and mother, that relationship needs to be intimate. The relationship needs to have detail. So if I as a child pick a flower, I shouldn't give it to daddy. I must give it to mommy. Same thing with an apple. I mentioned this before. If you are a child and you have an apple, give it to mommy. Mommy will like it. Daddy will just add the apple to his other apples. En die blom gooi is maar weg. You understand? Now you're going to think it's careless. But that flower means nothing in the world of a male. You understand? While a lady will cherish it. And she will put it in a vase. Al is het net een blommetje, miskien 'n paar petals, miskien ook, wat my kind het gedoen daai. So it is valued. Your life is all your mother wants to share with you. But you see, a father is not into that business. A good child is one that obeys me. You understand? I don't need a lot of apples and all of that. Klein beetje van die every now and then, that is sufficient. Ja, koffie. So die alle 3 jaar focus op mommy, and the 4e jaar focus op daddy. That is sufficient for the average male. They don't need that amount of intimate communication. So we find it in hadith also. Allah knows best.